importance to your life and to your faith. Oh my goodness sakes. What grace is ours that we can come together every day and use the airwaves for the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ and really to enter into this family of God, right? Through which we become edified, encouraged, emboldened to go out there and to be the men and women that are required for this our day and time. The great saints of this latter day might not be the last day, but it's a latter day. And we are called to be the saints, the men and women who reflect the face of God into this time of delusion and deception and craziness that's going on all around us. And just in reference to that, we do not lose heart, right? We don't lose heart because we are being built anew every day. That's a paraphrase from St. Paul. And we've got to realize that, God in his omniscient gaze saw you in this time and me in this time, and he knew that we were the people of this time, right? That we would be those ones who would be the reflectors of his divine life in the world today. And he also knew that something about this day and time was going to make saints out of us. And I got to tell you, you don't have to go too far to see what that might be. I'll bet you don't have to go too far in your family life, in your personal life, in other ways. You don't have to go too far into the machinations that we see taking place in the world today to find out that, this is a time where, God is pruning his people and he's looking for us to open up our hearts to him, to get rid of all of the guck in our own lives that we might contain more of him, because all of us together he wants to use to be those instruments that are purveyors of the good. That are talking about the things that really matter and are trying to tease out of this day and time that which is God honoring from that which is not, and to be very careful in our discerning process, right? To exercise a great deal of prudence in making those decisions. And that's why every Wednesday we do what we do here, right, on Women of Grace Live. We have Wacky Wednesday, and we talk about the wackiness, and we really do try to invite you to enter into this quest to proclaim that which is true, that which is good, that which is God honoring in our day, as opposed to falling victim to the zeitgeist, right? To the spirit of the age, to the cultural consciousness that's leading us along very deleterious paths, and we've got all kinds of great big geists, German word for spirit, great big ones that are hiding behind a lot of the social movements that we see taking place in our world today. And we're going to be talking about all of that with our guest today, who is always our guest every single Friday. She is our staff journalist and New Age researcher for Women of Grace, Susan Brinkmann. And I want to invite you to get out to Sue's blog, which is on our website, womenofgrace.com. And when you see the word blog in the nav bar, click on it, and you will find her articles there. We've also got other stuff there. So, you can use the search engine, put in something that you want to know more about, and all of those articles and documents that Sue has comprised will come up for you on that particular one. Or you can just scroll through and see what the latest offerings are. On Wednesday, we like to talk about the latest things that she's got out there. And I got to tell you, we've got some doozies. We've got doozies going on. I do not think that we understand or can realize how the media is being used today to cram, lies down our throat, to begin to twist us in our thinking, that plants seeds of doubt in our mind about our faith or our God himself, that is deceptive in just so very many ways. We don't realize it because it's coming through everything now. It's coming very explicitly through the words that people speak, but it's coming in subtle means by the insertion of New Age ideas, New Age thoughts, occult activities into our advertisements, right? Into the visuals that we see through television, into the words that are spoken through radio and are printed, in magazines and in other places, and very few people talk about this because it's like the underbelly of our world in a certain way, and people that know the dangers of these things sometimes steer clear and don't want to speak out because they are concerned about what will happen if they do. But we have got to be those bold people, right? We've got to speak truth to the lie. We've got to speak light to the darkness. We've got to speak the truth into the lie. We've got to speak the truth into the darkness. Otherwise, I think that there's going to be a certain accountability that we're going to have to make before God. Oh, yeah, I listen to Wacky Wednesday every Wednesday, but I just listened to it. And, when I saw my neighbor doing this or that, I didn't speak to them about it because, well, they're my neighbor. And, I didn't want to offend them in any way. Golly gee whizzikers, I don't think our Lord thought like that. He offended a whole lot of people, but he always spoke the truth in love. So, just allowing ourselves to be these evangelists. That I did not intend to get on such a rant about all of that. But here we are, and I'm ranting away. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the number to use to join us live here on Women of Grace Live, where we do love having holy conversation with you, where we do like to speak truth into the lie and light into the darkness of our day and time, to the extent that we can and to the extent that God gives us capacity. And we've got that capacity right here every Wednesday. So we want to make sure that you mark this day on your calendar. Join us Monday through Friday. We want you to be with us every day. But on this particular day, we dedicate it to such topics. So we invite you to call us with your questions, your comments, your insights, your inspirations, your words of encouragement. We also encourage you to use our listener comment line. It is the same as our call-in line, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. After 4 p.m., that number that we use here to receive your calls during our live shows becomes a listener comment line, and you can leave your question or comment there for us. Just say, this is for Women of Grace, and then just go on. And we will be very happy to take it here on our program. In addition to that, you can email your questions. womenofgrace@EWTN.com is the way in which you can do that. And in between times, you can go out and read all about it in our blog at womenofgrace.com. So all of those ways in which we try to, really present to you what is good, what is true, what is honorable, all of those good things, but also to uncover for you some of these things that could jeopardize your eternal salvation. Please note the qualifier could. Nobody knows what goes on between a soul and God in those final moments, and God's mercy is greater than any sin. So we hope that if you find yourself being involved in these practices, that you'll take yourself to the sacrament and receive the mercy that God wants you to have. We're going to be talking about some really interesting things as we move forward in our program today, but we do want to hear from you. Matt Gabinski is our call screener. We want you to call him and at this number, 833-288-EWTN. Let him know what it is that you want to share on the air, and he'll get you up here. Same with Jeff Burson, who is back in the saddle with us. Go out to EWTN's radio's YouTube channel, Facebook page, and use the chat feature. He'll grab those questions and get them up. 833-288-EWTN. Coming right back at you after the break. Stay with us.
Tonight on EWTN Live, the Dominican Sisters of Mary, the Mother of the Eucharist, have several new original series coming to EWTN, and Mother Mary Assumpta and Mother Amata Veritas will offer a sneak peek on the next EWTN Live.
EWTN Live with me, Father Mitch Packwood, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on EWTN TV and radio.
Ever wonder how we should pray? I'd like to offer just one. Don't make prayer your work, make work your prayer. In other words, one's faithfulness to their daily duties of state and life and vocation, while at home and at their place of employment, can be offered as a pleasing sacrifice to God when done lovingly, faithfully, and well. It all boils down to the virtue of diligence, doesn't it? Do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, in the way it's supposed to be done.
And now, the EWTN Family Prayer with Father Joseph.
Family, a prayer that we pray together is a powerful prayer. So please pray together with me our EWTN Family Prayer. Today we pray for atheists and agnostics. O Holy Spirit, Spirit of truth, we worship you. We pray for those who either do not believe or who believe wrongly, enlighten their minds with your light, and inflame their hearts with your love. Give the gift of the faith to atheists and agnostics. Humble their pride and inspire their souls with your grace. Burst through their blindness with your radiance, and use EWTN as an instrument of salvation for many. Amen.
Encouraging women in their gift of authentic femininity. Here's more Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We certainly are happy you are with us today. Our phone lines are already lighting up on this Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkmann is in the house. We're going to be bringing her up in just a moment here. She is our New Age researcher and our staff journalist for Women of Grace, and her blog is really quite exceptional. So we invite you to get out there to womenofgrace.com, click on blog, and you're going to find Sue's articles there. If you don't see it, in the first listing, just keep scrolling, or use the chat, the search engine there, and you can put in your topic, and all of the articles that she's written, or the majority of them, will come up there for you. It makes it very easy if you really want some specific information on a specific topic. We always want for you to give us a call here with your questions and comments. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986 is the way that you can call us. Matt Gabinski is on the phones. Be sure to give him a big old howdy hey, and he will get your call up here. Also, social media, EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Use the chat feature. Jeff Burson, our producer, who is back with us today, will dash on out there and get it and put it up for you. But before we get to Sue, before we get to your questions, I'm ringing 3 bells. Yes, I am. I'm ringing 3 bells. We've got 2 very big announcements. First off, we'd like to welcome the newest member of the EWTN family. We are so excited here at EWTN Radio to announce to you that numbers of individuals are now listening to us on AM 750 WNDZ, serving greater Chicagoland. Woohoo! And we just want to issue a big thank you to all of our people that have made that happen, especially to Angela Tomlinson, a longtime radio partner, and her great team at WSFI in Antioch, Illinois. They're partnering with WNDZ for outstanding EWTN and local programming. Thank you, Angela. Thank you to your team. Thank you to all of you that are making this possible. And again, we want to let you know that we are welcoming to AM 750 WNDZ, all of you who are listening today, the newest member of our EWTN family. So get out there, spread the good news. Let your family, your relatives, your friends, let everybody know that we are there now on WNDZ, right there in Chicagoland. It's AM 750. Welcome to all of you. What great grace is ours to have you with us. In addition to that, do want to let you know that we're going to be in San Antonio, Texas. And who is the we? It's Women of Grace. We're coming to San Antonio, Our Lady of the Atonement Catholic Church, encouraging you to get out there to our website, womenofgrace.com, and read all about it. It begins with the Benedicta Leadership Institute that you can register for independently of the retreat or in conjunction with the retreat. That starts on September the 16th, which is a Thursday, and runs through September 17th afternoon. Our retreat itself begins September 17th. That's Friday evening, and it closes Saturday evening, and it closes with a healing service. All of that out there for you on our website. Go take a peek. And on that Saturday from 9 to 4, a Young Women of Grace retreat is going to be taking place. So it is a power-packed weekend there at Our Lady of the Atonement Catholic Church in San Antonio, Texas. We're encouraging you to go out to our website, read out all about it, and register there. We want to see you at that beautiful, beautiful event. Well, now we get to welcome to our Wacky Wednesday the Wacky Wednesday woman herself, and that is Sue Brinkmann.
I like to be referred to as the wacky woman. That really works for me.
No, Wacky Wednesday woman. A new meaning for WWW. Right?
Yeah, that's a new logo for us. That's great. Yes. Thank you for having me back. I always look forward to our shows together. This is so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so much that's going on, and already, as I say, the phone lines are lighting up. But we wanted to start. We want to ask all of you to please hold, and we want to ask you to call in if you haven't called in, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. There's so much that goes on out there, Sue, that we've we've got to discuss. But we want to just share with people a little bit about the topic that we talked about last week, because you discovered something and we want them to know about it. We were talking in our last program last week about Christian fantasy versus Harry Potter, what the difference is. And we referred people to our website to pull up the articles that you've written on that. And when you went to do that, you discovered that we had an issue.
Yes, yes, the file was corrupted. Every once in a while, I come across that somebody goes after something in there and destroyed this one, or tried to destroy it. So I resurrected it, updated it, and reposted it. So now it's back, and it gives you the information that I think is so critical for not only parents but also educators, because our libraries, our school libraries, are full of this stuff. And the teachers need to understand the difference between occult-based fantasy, which is Potter, and Christian fantasy. There's nothing wrong with Christian fantasy. Occult-based what it does is it uses magic in a way that turns the moral order on its head, and it distorts good and evil. For instance, like they'll say black and white magic. That's a distinction that doesn't exist, by the way. There's no such thing as that. All magic is black, whether you're using it for white reasons or not. But the magic in the Potter type books are used by both the good and the bad characters. So they both use the same thing. And what does this do in the mind of the child? Well, it takes that magic and it makes it morally neutral. It takes it out of the moral realm entirely, and it makes it into a kind of tool for them. And they begin to think, oh yeah, this is okay. I can do this. If I want to, punish the bus driver for yelling at me, I'm just going to work some little curse on him. And trust me, I've read about that, where children actually did stuff like that to their bus drivers, their teachers, So if magic is presented as good or as morally neutral, there is an increased likelihood that when a young person encounters opportunities in the real world to fool around with magic, they're going to do it. They're going to do it because they're going to think it's okay. Now, you contrast that with Christian fiction, and I'm talking about now the Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings. They're loaded with magic, but there's a big difference between them. And I'm referencing now the work of Michael D. O'Brien and his book, Harry Potter and the Paganization of Culture, which is an excellent, excellent book. I advise every teacher to read that book and parents read the book, but teachers especially, because it really, it gets academic in here, but it really does explain to you the difference between these two types of fiction and why you need to be careful of it. Now, the Christian fiction, witches and sorcerers, they're always portrayed in classic terms, such as, that they're malevolent and that they're manipulative, that they're deceiving, that they're bad. Okay, that's how they're presented in that. It's presented how they trick the children in the Chronicles of Narnia, like the witch in the silver chair, mesmerize the children, convince them that there is no sin. But then one character, deliberately burns himself in the fireplace to shock his mind back to reality. And when he snaps out of it, he confronts the witch, who then reveals her true nature and turns into a serpent. Now, you would never see this in Potter type books. Magic is wonderful in there. No matter how you use it, it's great. You have to have magic. And in fact, in Potter books, people who don't use magic are pictured as being backward, and somehow weird and strange, and you don't want to have anything to do with them. There's a great article, and I quote it in here, and I give you a link to it, by Catholic Answers apologist Stephen Gray-Danis. And he outlines 7 very distinct differences between the use of magic in Christian fantasy and that used in books such as Harry Potter. Like Tolkien and Lewis, they relegate the pursuit of magic to wholly imaginary realms, but not so with Harry Potter. And I think we mentioned this on the air last week. Potter's a hero in the modern world, and that children can relate to that. Now, the magic being used in Christian fantasy is known to all the inhabitants in these imaginary realms, but in Potter's book, it's only a magical elite that get to know about this magic, making it all the more intriguing and attractive to children, right?
Yeah.
Tolkien, Lewis, they include cautionary threads. They emphasize the danger of the corrupting influence of magic on its users. Books such as Potter do the exact opposite. They glorify the magic. They include no such warnings about it. And in Potter, those who resist it are, as I said, shown to be backwards. That's how they're presented in there. So it's not really the fact that magic is in the book, it's how the magic is portrayed in the book.
Yeah.
That's what you need to watch for.
Yeah. I just want to mention too, Michael D. O'Brien's done a lot of work on this. And, many years ago, I interviewed him, and Steve Wood, I also believe, was on the program with him. And we were exposing the whole business of Harry Potter. It was right at the height of the Harry Potter craze. And the book that I interviewed Michael on was A Landscape with Dragons, The Battle for Your Child's Mind. And that was actually, I think it was released in November of 1998, which is quite some time ago. But Harry has hung on, and let me just say, not only has Harry hung on, but what has spawned from the Harry Potter series is this entire genre of occult books for children. And I think it's important to mention, people will often say, well, gee, Sue, you talked about curses, you talked about, like spells and these things. Like, are they real? Do they really cause things to happen? They do cause things to happen. And I think it's not so much by the ingredients that you put in or anything, but it's caused because it happens because the door is opened. The door is opened for demons to enter in. It's a calling card for the demonic. It's a calling card for, the powers of darkness to enter in. And it's the powers of darkness hiding behind that ritual or that curse or whatever the case may be, in many cases, that is causing the thing to go forward. So we don't understand. This is why it's so dangerous. So when we introduce our children to this, what we're doing is we're giving our parental blessing to our children to open up these portals to the demonic activity, which is all of that is a front for demonic activity, if I can use it that way. We're opening up the door that brings these demons into our child's life, and we're doing it with a smile on our face, simply because, one, we're ignorant, we don't know, or two, we don't believe what's being said. And yet we've got all of this documentation to back up what is being told to you. We've got all of this documentation to back up the statements that are made. And this book, as well as the other one that you mentioned by Michael D. O'Brien, is excellent. And sometimes, we have to allow ourselves to read these books that at first it's like, well, what does this have to do with that? Well, we have to know the history so that we can see the forward movement. We've got to know what's behind it. We've got to understand a Catholic vision, a Catholic worldview. We have to understand how it is that God works versus how it is that the demon works. We've got to learn these things so that we can actually begin to be prudent and make wise decisions for our children and for ourselves. Because there are numbers of individuals who are people, adult people, not little ones, adult people that get all caught up in this kind of literature, and it's bad. There's nothing good about it. You say, well, it's entertaining. It's not entertaining. Would you call it entertainment if you were permitting a demonic entity, possibly permitting, let me qualify that, possibly permitting a demonic entity to come in and put a stranglehold on your soul, to put a stranglehold on your thought process, to put a stranglehold on your will, because a lot of this becomes very addictive. So we're striding about it. Don't apologize for it. We're striding about it because it's so important.
Oh, absolutely. It's so important to stress that, Johnette, because, don't think kids aren't affected negatively by this stuff, because they are. I mean, exorcists have said that they've had to outright exorcise kids because of their involvement in these books, not just Potter, but like you said, it spawned a whole new genre out there of occult fiction. It's the hottest sellers of all the big publishers like Scholastica, and that's their big sellers, is all this occult type stuff. And it's feeding these kids information that's very dangerous for them. And as I said, curses, Satanism, and occult practices that involve communication with spirits. So that would be the Ouija board, any kind of necromancy, whatever they're involved with. All three of those, they are the main reasons why people get possessed by demons. Do you really want your kids getting involved in stuff? Because that's what curses are. That's sorcery. And that's what Harry Potter is. He's a sorcerer. I can remember going to a school once and saying, do you know what the word sorcery means? And none of the children knew what that word meant. And I said, well, this is, people who use magic and they work spells on others. And the one kid said, you mean like Harry Potter? I said, exactly. Harry Potter teaches sorcery. It's not just magic. People want to paint these like pretty little puffy words around to describe things. No, it's sorcery. And we are directly told not to do that in the catechism. 2116, 2117. Read those because they give very stern warnings about getting involved in these kind of things. This is sorcery. It's not something that you fool around with because, like you said, Johnette, it calls upon demonic powers.
That's
And
right.
yes, sometimes these curses do work. Curses work, I guess, a lot of times if exorcists say that's one of the three main reasons why people get possessed. And if you're not in a state of grace and someone tries to put a curse on you and God allows it, because remember, God does control everything that Satan does. And God allows you that curse to stick to you, your life is going to start spiraling downward overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know this concept of state of grace too, Sue. You know that you know. Well, okay, so I'm not in mortal sin, so I can go into this psychic's tent. You know, that's the sin of presumption right there.
Oh, yeah.
And you know you're saying goodbye to grace, and you're opening yourself up to you know the entities that can be conjured there. So you know we have to be very, very careful. Never presume upon the Lord, it says in sacred scripture, right? So never make a presumption, you know, of where you are in these things. It's very, very important to know. And, you know, I also want to say that in reference to all of these things, you know, there is no casual involvement. And that's why, you know, we really have got to be on the alert. Now, we know that many of these mass shooters, you know, that have come into schools, these mass shooters that have taken people out in theaters, many of them have been involved and were involved at a young age with these kinds of occultic things. Might not have been Harry Potter. It could have been Dungeons and Dragons. It could have been a video game, right? So these are all sources that can lead to very, very terrible things. Does that mean that every child is going to go off and do those things that's been involved in these? No, it doesn't mean that. But the fact is, why are we going to put our children at risk? Why are we going to put ourselves at risk? It's not worth it. We're running around with 2 and 3 masks on, you know, vaccinations and doing all of these things because of a pandemic, you know, which 98% of the people, you know, recover from. You know, and I'm not saying that we ought not to be precautionary, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, I'm just making a comparison here. We do all of that to protect our bodies. What are we doing to protect our souls? You know, we go where angels fear to tread, you know, and open ourselves wide up. And we do have a lot of calls, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. And we want to get to those calls. But Sue, I want to talk very quickly about something that we mentioned earlier on. I think we've got a minute or two to do this before the break. Oh, no, there's the music. Well, I'll hold it until after the break, but you can be thinking about it. It's the way in which our media today, including advertisements, are being used by the evil one to plant suggestions in our head because the world, the culture of the day, the zeitgeist of the day says, oh, this is all cool, C-O-O-L, cool, however you say that. I'm from Pittsburgh. Everything with double O sounds the same. Anyway, all that being said... Can't help it. I keep trying, but it doesn't work very well. All of that being said, because it's you know, really with it. Let's just change the word. It's really with it. More with Sue Brinkmann on the other side of the break. 833-288-EWTN. Coming right back to you on this Wacky Wednesday. Stay with us.
Get Amazon Fire TV. All you need is a high-speed internet connection, a TV, and the Amazon Fire TV player. Never miss any of your favorite EWTN television or radio programs again.
This is a Messy Family Minute with Mike and Alicia Hernan. Very often, parents contact us for advice on disciplining their kids. Children are raw personality when they're born, and it's the job of parents to shape them into civilized human beings. Moms and dads need to create expectations, structure, and rules to teach kids how to respect other people. But those rules need to be enforced within a relationship.
A good maxim for parents to remember is, rules without relationship breeds rebellion. The first step in disciplining our children is to invest in our relationship with them. This is true if your child is 4 or if they're 14. Fill up their love tank, learn how they tick, recognize their amazing uniqueness. This will open their hearts to the guidance that only you can give as a parent.
Visit us at messyfamilyminute.org to access our discipline guide and other resources designed to encourage and inspire Catholic parents like you.
He was a scholar, a preacher, a Capuchin Franciscan, and a defender of Christendom. Matthew Bunsen and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Lawrence of Brindisi was one of the most respected preachers in the 17th century, but he also helped raise an army against the Ottoman Turks when they invaded Hungary in 1601. He led the troops to victory against the Turks, carrying only a crucifix. He was declared a Doctor of the Church in 1959.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Whom or what are you praying for?
It's your chance to enlist prayer support from the entire world.
That's next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on most of these EWTN stations.
Now back to Women of Grace.
Transforming the world one woman at a time. Let's return to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're so happy you're with us today. We've got full phone lines going on. As one opens up, we'll go to the next one. So, Sue, I'm going to let you make the call here. Do you want to go on and talk about these commercials, or do you want to go on and start with the phone lines?
Well, gosh, both of them are the phone lines. Probably we should do that because we have a lot.
Yeah.
And we want to let people come in here. So why don't we do that? And if we get time, we'll come back to these commercials.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll just hold the commercials to next week. They're not going anywhere, the commercials.
I know. Unfortunately,
our
they're
people
not.
may go somewhere. So let's get started with our phone calls there. I think that's a good call. Prudent. It's prudent. Let's get to Carol. She's in Boston, Massachusetts today. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I just want you to know that I appreciate and love you both very much.
Oh, thank you.
We love you
so
too.
my question is about Medusa. Is she considered an evil, whatever you call her, spirit or
right? No, actually, Medusa is from Greek mythology. She's a mythological character.
Right.
She was supposedly a priestess of Athena, right? And she had an affair with Poseidon, and so Athena punished her and made her into this horrible-looking hag. That's the story of her. Now, people who may be putting like a tattoo on their body with Medusa, they may be involved in, I suspect, neo-paganism, because they're very much into all these, Greek gods and Roman gods and that. And we all know that spirits hide behind the name of these gods because these gods don't really exist. There was no Poseidon, there was no Athena, but a demon will go be behind there and come when you call upon that particular spirit. And in shamanism, they very often do call upon these different spirits. So it could be, but Medusa herself is not necessarily an evil entity. She's just a mythological figure, and it just depends on why your daughter put that tattoo on there and what perhaps your daughter might be involved in. Maybe she is involved in some kind of shamanism. Do you know that?
No, I don't believe she is.
Okay.
We're talking about the one with the snakes, correct?
Right.
Yes.
That's Medusa,
okay.
right.
No. I know she's not into any of that. I don't know why she did it. Whether she
I would
just
ask
thought
her,
it was
Carol. I would ask her because I would ask her why she did it. In a non-threatening way.
I think that in her mind at the time, it was a few years ago, that she thought she was powerful. This figure. Do you see what I'm saying? So, but I honestly don't believe she's into any type of evil worship or anything like that.
Well, why would she be interested in the power of it then?
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that's
a good question.
Yeah, I would wonder about that.
She struggles.
Yeah.
I think because she struggles with certain things,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might want to get some clarity from her on that as to why she's doing that, but as Johnette said, in a non-threatening way, to see if you can get her to open up for a discussion about it. And you know where you can find us every Wednesday, so we can discuss that further. You could also write to us here at Women of Grace at info@womenofgrace.com. That'll come right to me. Right to us. It'll get to me.
Okay. Thank you so much for your help.
You're welcome, Carol. Thank you. Yeah, my concern about that, Sue, is that we're assigning powers of God to an entity. And, of course, this is where, as you said, the demons hide behind these things. So if we're going to go to that source, that kind of a thinking source for power, then we could be, one, confused, and two, we could be opening something we don't want to open. So I think it's a good idea. We've got Joseph with us in Germantown, Maryland, and here he is. Hey, Joseph, how are you?
Hi, Johnette. Thank you for your show, and thank you, Susan. Greatly appreciate all of your advice. I just want your advice in terms of what I do for a living. I'm a chiropractor. I'm a physical therapist. And for the past 20 years, I've been using medicinal oils because they're a very effective medicine for helping patients with many different things. As you said, it's important how you portray them, and I want to make sure that I'm being very clear with my patients. I use them because patients want me to use them. They know how effective they are as a natural form of medicine. They're not worshipped, but basically they're used because patients want me to use them. I've studied about them. But my question is, where do you draw the line in terms of a boundary line of knowing, how far to go? Because some patients, including myself, I use them as my primary form of medicine. My wife does the exact opposite. She's a doctor of toxicology for the FDA. And I come at looking at healing from a natural realm. And these medicinal oils have proven to be very effective in helping in many different conditions. But my concern is I'm a very conservative Catholic, completely by the book. And I want to make sure that I'm not violating anything, doing anything wrong, because I've had some times where I've heard priests say that you can't even use medicinal oils because of what is ascribed to them. I don't ascribe anything to them. I just basically study about what they do, and I use them as my primary form of medicine because patients want me to use them, and they want me to help them with different conditions, and that's part of my job practice. But I want to make sure I'm not crossing any boundary lines towards the evil one.
Right. Well, first of all, as far as your moral obligation as a Catholic, we cannot use anything that's untested and is not scientifically proven, which no essential oil is, for anything medicinal other than for stomach aches. There just is not a lot of good science out there. There's a lot of science, but not a lot of good science, not a lot of credible science out there. But that would take me a whole show to go through all those things. And I'm sure if you've read about it, you and I could have some interesting discussions on that. But you are morally obligated to use. Go ahead.
But there are many university studies now with the medicinal oils. That's my concern, is that because it's become so popular, they're now being researched as hardcore experimental usages for cancer, for many different things. So the medicinal oils are now being used in studies, routinely. So I can point. I had to take 30 hours of continuing education credits, and I did it through one of the universities as my chiropractic education. And these are university studies that did all this research about these different.
Yes, universities are very active in it. They're very active in it. But is what they're experimenting with, what they're using in their research, the same thing that's in your bottle of oil? That's the big question here. Yeah, there's ingredients in essential oils that have been proven and are being tested very heavily by many universities, many very credible places right now. But are they able? Are they found in your Young Living, say, or your doTERRA bottles?
Oh, no.
And
See, I don't use that.
Yeah, but
there's certain companies that are very known to be New Age companies, but that's what I'm saying is that, for example, cinnamon bark has proven to be more effective than glucophage in helping with blood sugar stability in many documented studies in universities. So when someone says to use the cinnamon bark oil to help with somebody, where do you draw that line of saying I'm
are they? I don't want to cut you off, but I know we have time and we have so many people holding. But in the cinnamon bark, in that one, is that peer reviewed?
Most of them are. Most of the ones that are very
that would have to be peer reviewed. That had to be corroborated science in order for you to be able to go out there and say to somebody, "Hey, use this oil instead of such and such." That would need to be something that's peer reviewed and accepted to science. And the problem with, as far as the Catholicism is concerned, is you're morally obligated to use scientifically proven medicines for the treatment of anything that is life-threatening or contagious. You're morally obligated to do that. And in fact, on our website, on the blog, and I'd be happy to send this to you, and it gives you all the links to where all that information comes from in the church. You're morally obligated to do that. It doesn't matter if you believe that this works and that works and the other thing. It doesn't matter. if science hasn't come together to say, and I'm just using it as a hypothetical, you can use cinnamon bark to treat your cancer, you can't prescribe that. You shouldn't be prescribing that as a Catholic. Now, if doctors have run out of everything to cure somebody's cancer, then it would be different. You could use an alternative. And essentials are still considered to be alternatives. But like you said, they're working on them. And essential oils themselves, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not evil.
Right.
It's just that they're being used in ways that really haven't been as proven as people think they are. And you go onto these websites and they're promoting this stuff for everything, all kinds of contagious stuff. There's people out there promoting stuff that supposedly is going to help you, avoid COVID and all this. Like, where is it? And you look at the science behind it and you find, okay, it's this ingredient that was in this particular oil that was manufactured, but that's not the same because of the quality problems in the manufacturing and the production of essential oils. That same ingredient might not be the same in this bottle or that bottle or the other bottle. So it's very difficult with essential oils to really pin that down to say, okay, is this peer reviewed? Is science saying you can now start using cinnamon bark to treat this?
Yeah, and if I could interject, and that's one of the problems that we have is because they're not FDA regulated. So your wife there, Joseph, as a doctor of toxicology, is involved in that kind of business, and so there is no regulation, so they can vary. But I think a rule of thumb is this: God created the oils in these plants, and so as Sue says, oils, the essential oils in and of themselves are not sinful. It's what we ascribe to them in terms with regard to the New Age things. And Joseph, I know that you're not doing this, but some people will ascribe all kinds of powers, occult powers to these kinds of things. And oftentimes they'll say that this is helpful. They do the same thing with crystals, for example. They say that this will heal this will heal that, this will bring about this will bring about, this will take care of your depression, etc. They're ascribing a power that it doesn't have. Fortunately, with something like this, there are studies that are being done, and hopefully they will arrive at a clear reckoning with these things and will say if it, and the FDA will regulate it if it is useful. But we do know that some things are useful. For example, if you get a burn and you have an aloe plant and you break that aloe plant open, and you rub that on the burn, it's going to bring some kind of healing to you. We know the same with the vapor rubs. The vapors will open up your congested head. So we do know that, but most of the time those things have been tested pretty well. But I will say this about you, Joseph. I am so absolutely pleased that you are so very concerned about this. I mean, it shows your integrity as a man, as a son of the Most High God, as a son of the church, and as a doctor. And, would that everybody would be so concerned that they would do the investigation and they would call for direction and guidance and be open, to what it is that they hear, what it is that they read. So, I know that God will bring about for you, just the proper balance with regard to that. And I think that there is a line, and I can't tell you where that line is, but I think I think that Sue has outlined one, which is the medical line and our moral obligation by the tenets of the faith, with regard to your profession. And then the other line is that we don't assign to essential oils powers that only belong to God. So I don't know. That's my summary statement. What do you think, Sue?
I think that's very, very true, because once you do get into that, you're getting into superstitious medicine. If something hasn't been proven and you're saying, oh, this is going to help you to cure you this, cure that, cure the other thing, and you really don't have the good, credible science behind it, that's what's known as superstitious medicine. So we need to be careful about that too. But I have to just second that. I'm just so glad to have a question like this from you, Joseph, because too many just go ahead really, and they're just giving these out to people. And I have story after story after story on our blog of even children in particular who have been adversely affected by people who are just insisting that because it's a natural cure, it's going to help their child, and they're going to just stay away from Western medicine. And you just can't make that kind of blanket statement. You just can't do that. It's just dangerous. It's dangerous.
Not at all. Well, we're going to move on to Ann. Ann is in Buffalo, New York. She is a first-time caller. We ring our first-time caller bell. Happy to have you with us, Ann. What's your question?
Hi. Oh, grateful to be a first-time caller, too.
Glad.
Let's see. I have a question. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called healing touch. It seems Okay, so you're familiar because
Very.
I had an issue with a family member that actually, this was an interesting situation. She actually engaged it on my child when I wasn't around, and without my consent, actually, I gave a different answer what to do for her current ailment, and it turned into a confrontation, and she, of course, got offended, and then we got an email explaining, what she does and how she's certified, and it just, that I've done reading about it. It sounds like, it's an energy and chakra healing, and
Right.
it just sounds like Reiki disguised. So, it's just, it never sat well with me. And, her defense is it's practiced regular where she lives in hospitals. And, ever since this whole thing, our relationship has been strained. And I'm just curious, what your input is on.
Well, I'm going to give you my very quick input, Ann. And one, I think that you did exactly the right thing. We are going to offend people when we speak truth about things that they hold on to that really are fictitious things that have absolutely no backing by medical science whatsoever. I know that this is also part of the continuing education program for many nurses. People can get certified in all of this, and it doesn't matter. You can get certified in anything. It doesn't give credibility to it. What we do know is that it is an occult practice, that it does come from Eastern Oriental mysticism, is its base. It's the basic philosophy behind it. We know that there are a lot of things that are going on in the medical profession today that are wholly that's WHOLLY, outside of the revealed truth of sacred scripture and the teachings of the church, and absolutely have no, as we're talking about testing, there's no testing for this. So you did the right thing. Sue, I turn it over to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Therapeutic touch it's not Reiki. It's a little bit different than Reiki. However, it does rely on the balancing of this alleged universal life force energy, chi, ki, prana, life force, vital force. It has all different names for it, but it's a putative form of energy that has no scientific basis. It doesn't exist. So number one, it's a waste of money is what I tell people. Don't go there because the energy that they're balancing, there isn't. There's no such thing as it. But it was actually founded by Dolores Krieger, and she had attended the work of a faith healer named Oscar Astavani. He claimed to be able to manipulate the healing energies of Jesus. And he supposedly laid hands on these barley seeds and made them grow. And this nurse named Dolores Krieger, who was very high up in her profession, she was at the New York University School of Medicine. She was the head of that whole department there. Well, she saw this and she was so impressed with it. She just decided that the laying on of hands, healing by the laying on of hands, she was calling it laying on of hands in her day, is based not on the power of God, but in the Sanskrit concept of a human life energy known as prana. Mm-hmm. And that illness was a deficiency in that prana. And that the healer merely transfers their excess healing energy into the sick person. So the whole thing, number one, is hokey. It's all hokey, and it's got definite occult and magical type connections to it. In some cases, healing touch, people do have a spirit guide who helps to guide them. In Reiki, that's always the case. That's part of the Reiki initiation, what they call the attunement in Reiki. But healing touch is of the same school or class as Reiki is. Hands of Light, that's another one. There's different names for it, but it's known as energy medicine. And it, like I said, it has no scientific basis. I would have not been happy that someone did that on my child because of its background, and you don't know. I mean, is your sister involved in anything else? I mean, what else is she involved in this healing touch? Because the whole concept of her being able to balance this child's energy or give her some sort of an energy massage or whatever is really based on nonsense.
Right. And the name itself is a lie, because in healing touch, you don't touch anybody. The only thing that you're touching is this supposed, energy field that you're, moving the bad energy away and moving the good energy in. You're not touching the person. Reiki, you do touch the person, which can be scary because they're generally channeling a spirit, especially if they're a Reiki master. So, kudos to you, Ann. I'm sorry your sister's offended. but she really didn't have any right to practice anything like that over your children without your permission. She made the first error, because you could have told her, you could have cut this thing off at the chase, but she didn't give you that opportunity. I want to go to another Anna, and she is a first-time caller in Augusta, Georgia, and we want to bring her up, Sue. We're getting close on time, Anna, so I know that you've got a story to share with us, but we're going to ask you to keep it to the essential parts, okay? So how are you, Anna, there in Augusta? And a first-time caller is she? Ringing our bell for her.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you guys. And I was just calling to share a story about related to what you were speaking about with Harry Potter. Because I had a really good friend in college, and she was a passionate Catholic. We'd go to Mass together, and she also really loved Harry Potter and magic, just like magic books is what I thought. But she's actually, like, we're a couple years out of college now, and she's actually opened herself up to the occult, which I had never expected ever to happen. But I mean, it just goes to show with what you guys were saying that, like, when they portray magic as a good thing, that can have effects later on in life.
Right, right. And you know, Anna, you said you're so surprised at that happening, and I'm sure that this person really was a very passionate and devout Catholic. Maybe she's surprised too. But you know, Satan, he comes in through your woundedness, and she probably turned to the occult for some reason. People turn to it for power. They turn to it for healing. They turn to it because they want to feel better about themselves. They turn to it because they want to have power over someone who's hurting them, perhaps. So he probably came in through her woundedness in some way, and she turned on. It's always a warning I say to everybody. You can be deceived. You're never too holy. You never know enough. You can be deceived, and you can fall. No matter how devout and how passionate a Catholic you might be in any one moment. Always remember that, Anna. You can fall. You can fall just as she fell. And that's why we need to stay very, very close to Jesus and never get involved in this stuff. I'm sad to hear it, though. I'm very sad to hear that she opened herself up to the occult, but you can see how when something is written that way and it's so enticing and it looks, you know, oh, wow, I wonder if I could do this and I can get these powers too. You know, it's just something that's almost irresistible to people depending on their woundedness inside. And it's especially true with young people because, you know, they're in that state of mind. They're trying to figure out who they are. They want to kind of break free of their parental control. So they're into stuff like this. And that's why it's so popular in that age group, because these kids are they're enjoying the sorcery. They want to use it. They want to use it. So I'm sorry to hear about your friend. And you know, definitely we'll keep her in our prayers and everybody who's being drawn into this stuff. And especially those who are being drawn into it and aren't aware of it, that's what's happening to them.
Yeah,
that's the ones I pray for, that someone will open their eyes to it.
Yeah. Well, next week when Sue comes back with us, we're going to be talking about something very specific, I think, at least in our opening statements. Always your calls are appreciated. If you didn't get on the air today because we're running out of time, please know that we will be eager to hear from you next week. But we're going to be talking about this whole business of astrology as it's being presented through some of the commercials that we're seeing. It's raising a lot of questions in people's minds. I think you've got a blog out there about it, Sue, so people can get a bit of a sneak peek. So go to womenofgrace.com. Until we're together again, God bless you now. Bye-bye.